we are starting our session with Vande Mataram. Venkat Narayan Mahodaya, chant recite Vande Mataram.
Vande Mataram, Vande Mataram, Sujalam Supalam, Malayaj Sheetalam, Sasya Shamalam Mataram, Vande Mataram, Shubhra Jyotha Lakitayaminim, Pullakusumita Drumadala Shobhinim, Suhasinim, Sumadhura Bhashinim, Sukhadam Varadam Mataram, Vande Mataram, Vande Mataram.
Vande Mataram. Thank you, sir. Dhanyavada Mahodaya. And now, this is time to starting Prarthana. I am requesting Sailata Mahodaya to start class session starting Prarthana. Sailata Mahodaya.
1 minute meditation ani andukagyanandi.
No, you announce that 1 minute meditation after Omkaram 3 times and then you start Prarthana.
Okay. Should I start now, ma'am?
No, it is meditation time.
ॐ गणानान्त्वा गणपतिगुं हवामहे कविं कवीनामुपमश्रवस्तमं ज्येष्ठराजं ब्रह्मणां ब्रह्मणस्पत आनः शृण्वन्नोतिभिः सीदसादनम् ॐ श्रीमहागणाधिपतये नमः। ॐ प्रणो देवी सरस्वती वाजेभिर्वाजिनीवती धीनामवित्र्यवतु। ॐ श्रीमहासरस्वत्यै नमः। गुरुरेव गतिर्गुरुमेव भजे गुरुणैव सहास्मि नमो गुरवे न गुरोः परमं शिशुरस्मि गुरोः मतिरस्ति गुरौ मां पाहि गुरो ज्ञानानन्दमयं देवं निर्मलस्फटिकाकृतिम् आधारं सर्वविद्यानां हयग्रीवमुपास्महे श्रुतिस्मृतिपुराणानामालयं करुणालयं नमामि भगवत्पादशङ्करं लोकशङ्करं शङ्करं शङ्कराचार्यं केशवं बादरायणं सूत्रभाष्यकृतौ वन्दे भगवन्तौ पुनः पुनः ईश्वरो गुरुरात्मेति मूर्तिभेदविभागिने व्योमवद्व्याप्तदेहाय दक्षिणामूर्तये नमः। असतो मा सद्गमय तमसो मा ज्योतिर्गमय
मृत्योर्मा अमृतङ्गमया ॐ शान्ति शान्ति शान्तिः मातृदेवो भव पितृदेवो भव आचार्यदेवो भव अतिथिदेवो भव ॐ सहनाववतु सहनौ भुनक्तु सह वीर्यङ्करवावहै तेजस्विनावधीतमस्तु मा विद्विषावहै ॐ शान्ति शान्ति शान्तिः हरिः ॐ श्रीगुरुभ्यो नमः हरिः ॐ
धन्यवाद सायलता महोदय. हरिः ओम श्री गुरुभ्यो नमः. We are having a great resource person today also, Dr. CSR Prabhu garu. I am requesting Dr. CSR Prabhu garu start the session.
नमो ब्रह्मादिभ्यो ब्रह्म विद्या संप्रदाय कर्तृभ्यो वंश ऋषिभ्यो महद्भ्यो नमो गुरुभ्यः. Please focus on my image clearly. Highlight it. So as last time we have studied the background of Indian knowledge systems and its relevance today in the contemporary education system and knowledge system. And today we will be looking at how the knowledge production and propagation took place in Greater India, that is Bharat, through the ages. So about 1 lakh years of record is there. There's an old Stone Age site in Meerut and the Saraswati River at Adibadri onwards up to the ocean through Haryana, Punjab, Rajasthan, Gujarat. So on the banks of Saraswati River, the Vedic literature had blossomed. All the rishis had their ashramas on the banks of Saraswati River. Over a period of 1 lakh years of evolution, knowledge was produced in the form of Vedas first, then other forms which we will be covering today. And that knowledge has spread throughout the globe. Please remember that. Because knowledge will spread automatically in time. If you don't like or like it, doesn't matter. Whatever knowledge is there in one place, it will spread gradually throughout the world. That's why today we have very similar lifestyle and behavior and thinking and education in all the countries, because knowledge is spreading. So the first model of knowledge management, which is internalization of knowledge, externalization of knowledge, and socialization of knowledge, is definition of knowledge management. That was the Vedic era. The meaning of the Veda and the nature of knowledge. The word Ved comes from jnane, with jnane, to know. Also means with sattayam. So the knowledge of everything that exists and existence and existential knowledge. That is what is captured in the Vedic model in an oral tradition, Shruti. The teacher is just chanting the mantras. Some of them we chanted just now. First one in the Rig Veda is Agnimile Purohitam. So the mantras are chanted like songs, but only 3 swaras are there: Udatta, Anudatta, and Swarita. Except in Samaveda, it evolved into 7 swaras: Sari, Gama, Padani. Mantras are sung. And those mantras are taught to the children at a very young age, and they remember very effectively when they're very young. As we all grow, we'll forget. We're not able to remember. But children remember very strongly. And those chantings will be understood by them when they learn the Vedangas, Siksha, Kalpa, Vyakarna, Nivritti, Chanda, Jyotish. And they will also learn these philosophical interpretations with the Upangas or Darshanas. We'll cover each one of them today a little bit. And Sangha, Upanga, Veda, Jainam, that is ultimate education achievement, normally delivered in Kasi or in other higher centers of learning, centers of higher learning. Of course, in every village, there are Veda Pathshalas. Each Veda Pandit can have his own Veda Pathshala. And in addition to that, we have the Vidhi Badi or the street school, where there is an encyclopedia type Petha Bala Siksha. It covers everything, fundamentals, arithmetic, astronomy, agriculture, you name it, it's there. So the Vedic mantras were delivered by the rishis, who were mantra drashtas. There are about 800 rishis, of which most important are 7 Saptarishis. Bharadwaja is one of them. I belong to his Gotra. Kashyapa, Vishwamitra, Vamadeva, Vasishtha, Agastya. So all these 7 were the topmost rishis. Of course, all rishis need not be Brahmins. Some of them are not Brahmins, but all the human beings in the society are classified into the Gotras belonging to particular rishi, who might have delivered certain Vedic mantras or might not have delivered also. It doesn't matter. So it contains their perspective of life around us, but from the exalted states of consciousness, Ananda. They were in state of Samadhi, enlightened, Samatha. So from that perch, the Vedas reflect a worldview that is universal and inclusive. There is no exclusion concept. If you look at the Bible or the Quran, there will be exclusiveness. Only those who worship me or my devotees or momins, all others are kafirs, or all others are. Please mute the mics of all others. So this kind of exclusivism is not there in the Vedas. The Vedas are universal. Krilvanto Vishwamaryam, the whole universe, whole globe was considered as one entity. Vasudhaika Kutumbaka. So the universality, Catholicity, and non-confidentiality or non-intellectual property right, non-IPR. Today, everything will be IPR protected. You'll have a law which will protect your knowledge. It's not like that. It's exactly opposite. The Vedic model of knowledge is universal, open to everyone. Come on, take. So the Indic rishis emphasized a balance of spiritual development and material well-being in their lives. They were living simple lives, but very high thinking. So yato abhyudaya nishrayasa siddhi sadharmaha. Both abhyudaya and nishrayasa were aimed at. So the early institutions of learning were gotras, shakhas, charanas, satras or conferences, sabhas, and parishads, academies. They all played a major role in sharing and validating knowledge, similar to modern day academic activities and events like conferences. And the most important centers of learning were homes. That's very important to remember. Charity begins at home. Learning begins at home. All learning takes place from mother and father to start with. So today I am speaking with you at this level because of my mother. My father passed away very early in my age, but I had gurus. My mother and gurus molded my perspective. They prepared me for doing what I am doing today. And the Gurukulas, which are bigger groups of gurus and sishas, where it can range from 10 to 500 or 1,000 students. Even today, such gurukulas exist in Kasi and even in Hyderabad and many places, where students lived along with their teachers or gurus or acharyas and learned through close personal guidance, very close, intimate interactions. The teaching methods in the Vedas and the Upanishads, the first thing is it means to live together, to sit together, to talk together, to think together, to understand together. Sahana Vavatu. In all education process, even today in our prarthana, Sahana Vavatu, Sahanau Bhunaktu, Sahaviryam Karavavahai. Doing together things. It's not a one-way traffic. There's no hierarchy as such. But it's a two-way process of interactive learning. And the acharyas revered their own gurus and acharyas, purvacharyas. And they were globally famous. The Indian acharyas like Nagarjuna, he went to Tibet also. And China is an intellectual academic colony of India. And most of the world was forest. There was no England, there was no Washington, there was nothing, all forest. And only China was there, Egypt was there, Iran was there. And they were all under the influence of the Indian Vedic culture. There's a lot of commonality between those countries and India in terms of the pedagogy, the teaching learning process. Now, in addition to these small gurukulas at homes and larger gatherings, the education system expanded into sanghas, Vedic sanghas, parishads, charakas, and mathas. There were places where scholars were meeting to discuss ideas, share knowledge, and shape language and philosophy. The Rig Veda mentions such assemblies, and Upanishads describe scholarly debates held in royal courts. Wandering scholars called charakas traveled in search of learning, while institutions like Panchasala Parishad became healthy science academies. Please note this. That was science, contributing to India's rich scientific and philosophical traditions. There are not two different things. There are not three different things. Science, philosophy, religion were not different. They were all integrated. That is not understood by modern people. Modern people think science is different, philosophy is different, religion is different. Totally different. That's not true in the Vedic model of education. Then came the Sutra age, where short, precise statements and deep analysis was made. So by that time, the situation came that one person cannot master everything. So they started having specializations, which emerged from the earlier supporting subjects. Like, for example, Panini. The great Ashtadhyayi of Panini is Nabhuto Bhavishyati. Never such thing was created before him. Never such thing will be created in future after him. And they were linked to great traditions like Takshashila. And the university system originated in India. That's the important point you should note. So by now you would have understood India and the Vedas and the Vedic model of education is oldest, about 100,000 years onwards. And it had evolved from simple gurukulas into universities also. Both they coexisted. So the large centers of learning at the universities, Takshashila is the oldest, Nalanda, Vikramshila, Vallabhi, Kasi, Kanchi, Ujjain. Ujjain is same as Avantika. And Takshashila flourished in a big way in around 1000 BC or even 1000 BC. There was no university in Europe till 1200 AD. In Italy, one, and Oxford. So Nalanda and Vikramshila thrived in the Magadha region, that is Bihar. I have visited Nalanda several times, and Vallabhi was a major center in Saurashtra. Where is Saurashtra? Saurashtra is in Gujarat, coastal Gujarat, Rajkot area. Kashi, of course, was and is and will be the greatest center and greatest vibrant hub of traditional learning even today. Kanchi was there and Mysore also. Not the modern cities. Please note that all the modern cities, Bombay, all these things were not there. Instead, something else was there, and that was the major center. So, life at Takshashila, it was not a single university, but a group of individual schools run by expert teachers, each with around 500 students. These teachers were highly respected, and even kings and princes studied under them. Krishna studied in Sandipani in Ujjain, Avantika. Students included both day scholars and residents, and some were even married. Those who could not afford fees paid through their service or studied at night. Scholarships were provided by kings and local communities. Subjects included the Vedas. Initially, only 3 Vedas existed. Avadhara Veda came later. And 18 arts, Shilpa and Sipas and so on. Education was hands-on and practical. It was not just a theoretical mugging up. Today, what is the education system? You mug up everything and you vomit out in the examination. That's not the way. You don't even understand what you're mugging up and vomiting out. So there was a strong focus on observation, comparison, and storytelling as well. In fact, in the Charaka Samhita, there is a process of scientific method being explained. Observation followed by hypothesis, followed by verification or antithesis or proof. So the scientific method was followed. Even students who struggled were supported with customized teaching methods. Famous alumni included Panini, Jivaka. After Takshashila declined, its alumni helped strengthen other centers like Kashi and other locations in the country. After Takshashila declined, much later, after Nalanda declined, around 1200 AD, Oxford and one university in Italy started in Europe. Otherwise, they were illiterates. They were totally backward. India was very advanced, and he was the Vishwaguru. People came to India to learn from China, from Russia, from Greece, from Rome. Of course, Rome and all that later. First, Greece. Greece is as old as 1000 BC. Persian Empire is even older. They were very close. They were our own people. Even Greece, it is said that the Kshatriyas migrated from India to Greece in the time of Parashurama's attacks. Then came, in the later time period, the temple-based and matha-based, monastery-based education system. Buddhism started dominating the Indian scenario. So the monasteries were there in large numbers. And after Shankaracharya defeated Buddhism, Buddhism went through a decline, not only by Shankaracharya. Shankaracharya only defeated academically or logically by debates. But the real assault on Buddhism came by the Muslims' invasions. But in South India, the attacks of the Muslim invasions were very limited, thanks to Shivaji in Maharashtra and thanks to Sikhs in Punjab. So in South India, temple-funded colleges became especially important. So do you know the symbol of Tamil Nadu government? It's a temple. It is Srivilliputturu temple. So inscriptions from 10th century onward tell us how these institutions were organized and supported. For example, a Sanskrit college in Salotgi, Bijapur district was funded by land and village donations and provided hostel facilities for students. Of course, they had a different uniform, that is dhoti and uttari and shikha. In Enniyaram, South Arcot district in Tamil Nadu, 340 students and 10 teachers studied various subjects supported by agricultural endowments. All temples and pathshalas like this were supported by donations of agricultural endowments. And colleges even had hospitals and offered free education, food, and medical care. So these institutions blended spiritual, philosophical, and practical learning, showing how education was deeply connected to everyday life. With the rise of Jainism and Buddhism, the education systems developed in monasteries called viharas, Buddha viharas, and rock cut halls of the Chinese monk Fa Hien, who visited in 5th century AD or C, described a vibrant Buddhist center in regions throughout the country, like in Punjab, in Mathura, in Tamilti, and highlighted the key sites such as Jatavana Vihara in Shravasti in Bihar, which thrived for nearly 1,000 years. Can you imagine a monastery-based education system in Shravasti? Jatavana is very famous. Even Buddha was living there for some time. 1,000 years it continued, uninterrupted. The largest, I think, uninterrupted and other than Takshashila. Fa Hien observed disciplined learning environments and noted the influence of scholars like Radha Swami and Manjusri. So in 7th century C, Huyan Song documented a vast network of Buddhist monasteries across India and Central Asia, noting both flourishing centers like Nalanda, where he studied and he was faculty. If I visited, those who would have opportunity to visit Nalanda, please visit. You can see the ruins of the university, and you can also have a visit to the existing university. There are two universities existing now. One is the modern Nalanda University being revived by the government, and other is the Buddhist university, which is already there in the next to old Nalanda. And then Huyan Sang Museum is there, where you can see the Huyan Sang's role in Nalanda. And he carried around 10,000 manuscripts to China. So Huyan Sang recorded that in Andhra, Maharashtra, Sindh, which is in Pakistan now, revealed contribution of great thinkers. Vasubandhu, who is from Andhra, Karimnagar district, Telangana now. Nagarjuna is Andhra Brahmin from Guntur district, and showed how Buddhist Nagarjuna University is now kept on his. And when the Nagarjuna Sagar project was executed, the whole thing was diluted, so they took out everything and recreated. That's the museum in Nagarjuna Sagar. You can see. You can see the Buddha statue which existed at the time of Nagarjuna. You can see the hall where Nagarjuna taught and the ground where the people played in that university. So it is not a cock and bull story or imagination. They're actual real universities. Not the modern universities, but the ancient universities. It is so exciting when you go and see the remnants or the relics of what was really there when Nagarjuna lived and lectured in the classroom and the ground where the people played. So the monasteries were not only spiritual hubs, but also played a vital role in preserving knowledge, promoting scholarship, and shaping India's intellectual and cultural heritage. So royal patronage and community support we have inscriptions. 1122 AD, 44 villages revenues were donated to be provided for food and clothing for students, teachers, and monks. And in Malkapuram, Guntur district, he described a large institution that included temple, monastery, school, maternity home, and hospital. Staff included teachers, doctors, accountants. You see, obviously, people lived with medical facilities, educational facilities. We think that only now we have. It's not so. Similarly, democracy, we think we only now we have. It's not so. Chola administration had democracy, village democracy. Teachers were paid in gold or agricultural produce. That was normal barter system. Even our ancestors, my own ancestors, when they crop cutting comes, they share the output to among all the functionaries of village. Cash was not much. Gold and produce. Students, of course, received free education. And donors like kings and rich people and landlords donated. Like my own great grandfather was operating a Ved Pathshala in Kollur village. And he was granted 100 acres of land by the Raja, Venkatadri, Vasireddy Venkatadri Naidu. So these centers were more than just schools, they were complete communities built around learning. So settlements of scholars and literary assemblies. In addition to the colleges, special settlements were created for lifelong scholars, lifelong learning. They acted like postgraduate research centers where scholars studied subjects like Veda, Smritis, Nyaya. In some cases, entire villages were donated to support the scholars. That means the revenue coming out of those villages was dedicated to those institutions. Literary assemblies or sabhas were also held under royal patronage. You can see poets presented their work and best were rewarded. You can see the case of Krishnadevaraya. And education hubs like Ghatikas of Kanchi, Agraharas, Brahmapuris of Mysore, and centers like Belgaum flourished with royal support. Institutions like Golaki Matha and Shaiva Mathas. Even today in Karnataka, we have many Shaiva Mathas which are supporting many education institutions. And in Madhya Pradesh, Dhara, that is Bhoja's time, was funded by him and became the symbol of India's dedication to literature, art, and learning. Today, it is only an archaeological spot. So, we have covered from the Vedic period up to the pre-colonial period. Now we will touch upon the colonial period. During 18th century, 1740 onwards, the colonization started. And there is ample evidence of a variety of schooling systems ranging from formal schools like Veda and Shastra Pathshalas to teachers including students graciously at their home. The number and spread of such schools across the wide geographies is staggering. 4.5 lakh such institutions existed in the country. This is what a British survey presented. There's a wonderful book by Dharmapal, The Beautiful Tree, given in the references. Please read that. An even more striking aspect of this period was that the education was egalitarian. That means non-commercial, charitable, and not limited to upper caste only. That's a usual misconception that Brahmins kept everything secret. There's no such thing. So there are two types of institutions, the Veda Pathshalas and the Vidhi Badis or street schools. Street schools were for all caste and they delivered basic education, essential for life. Veda Pathshalas delivered Vedic education, only for upper caste who are interested in learning Vedas. Lower caste who will not be interested because they don't get any money out of it. So upper caste, mainly Brahmins, were teachers, so they had to teach again. Therefore, they had to learn everything. Whereas Kshatriyas, like kings, they were to administer. They learned certain things, not everything. That's why Sudama was more better in his knowledge in education than Krishna himself. Krishna was not a Brahmin. Sudama was a Brahmin. So there is a difference. But It's like doing PhD and becoming a faculty member. Everybody will not be interested in that. So what did people study in ancient India? They studied well-known subjects, the Vedas, the systems of philosophy, the darshanas, and the occupational sciences like trades and crafts, and politics and statecraft. This is what Kautilya has classified the subject areas during the ancient India. And there were subjects like Kama Sutras, Sukra Niti Sara, they were also studied. There's nothing left out. The Vedas and Vedangas, which included phonetics, that is Siksha, Kalpa, Vyakarna, Nivta, Chanda, Jyotish, and Darshanas, Sankhya, Yoga, Nyaya, Vaiseshika, Mimamsa, Vedanta, and also Bauddha Darshanas, Jain Darshanas, Charvaka, Lokayata. They are atheistic darshanas. Both theistic and atheistic were studied, both in Buddhist and non-Buddhist institutions. Ayurveda was fundamental, without which you cannot live. Life in society was based only on Ayurveda. There was no allopathy, by the way. Allopathy came only recently, about 150 years or 90 years. Only the discovery of penicillin, the allopathy started. And then, of course, political science and economy and law, that is Ardhashastra, which included public administration. Itihasa, Purana, history and epics, and Kavya, Nataka, Sangita, Natya, archery, Dhanurveda, Dhanurvidya, military arts, even Kalairapattam, the martial art. Even karate went from India to China to the prince of Chalukyas, Dharmaki. And then arts, 64 arts were there. Tailoring, embroidery, decoration, mining, metallurgy, gemology, pharmacology, botany, veterinary, sculpture, painting, mechanical, tool making, agriculture, irrigation, cattle rearing, cooking, dairy processing, fermentation, martial arts, swimming, diving, navigation, architecture, town planning, board games, gambling, and even how to prepare a pawn. Because your life will go on only if you do all these six. So 5,000 years plus civilization has developed all this. It has not happened in one day. Some subjects were very, very specific, like how to shoot arrows using your feet, or mastering the entire process of turning milk into curd, butter, or ghee. This shows how much value was placed on not only academic knowledge but also on skill. Because they're all skills. All our female housewives, whether they're educated or not in the academics, they're skilled in homemaking, home housewife skills, home science, it is called, apart from other skills like arts. So, how was education funded? The education was considered as a sacred duty, not a business. That's an important point. Teacher was not supposed to make business out of knowledge propagation. Teachers, non-guru, gurus often taught students without expecting absolutely any payment. And students lived simple lives and were supported by local community who gave them food and shelter. Brahmachari, you'll go and beg, and in every house he will be given. And that starts with the Upanayana Samskar. So the relationship, that's why in the Upanayanam they have Bhavati Bhiksham Dehi, Bhavan Bhiksham Dehi. The relationship between teacher and student was deeply respectful. Guru was like God. Guru Brahma, Guru Vishnu, Guru Deva. Even for me, my gurus, of course, starting with my mother herself, she was my first guru and the last guru. In between, I had half a dozen gurus of different subjects, different aspects, Hatha Yoga, Raja Yoga, and Vedas. So these gurus were not just teachers or lecturers or professors. They were very intimate personal guides. Even after their death, even after death of my gurus, I get inspired by them. Whenever I give lecture, I feel as if I'm delivering under their grace. I'm ever having gratitude for them. End of their education, students gave a gift or completed a task for the teacher. Like Krishna brought the dead son of his Guru Sandipani. And that is called Guru Dakshina. It is often symbolic rather than monetary or material. So teachers later began charging fees. It's a fees concept came later, but this was seen as not noble profession. A noble teacher will never charge. So friends, even in this course, we are not charging anything. These generous contributions help keep education accessible and respected across society. Because once the monetary greed comes into picture, you know what's happening. The school fees go on shooting up, except in Delhi where they were controlled by Kejriwal. Everywhere, huge lakhs of rupees of school fees. And then we have the college fees running into lakhs every year. And then the government will reimburse the backward sections by scheduled castes. Then the colonization. The traditions of Indian knowledge systems which had been evolving for 5,000 years or more, have suffered massive blows, massive mutations and deformations by the colonizing powers. Colonization is more than the political subjugation of one people by another. It's a comprehensive system of control that extends into economic, cultural, intellectual spheres of a nation. So you take the example of Iran, Persia, Persian Empire, 2500 BC, Darius, and so on. They were extraordinarily advanced people. In Louvre Museum in Paris, you can see the pillars of the palace of the Persian emperor. Fabulous. But then they were colonized by the Arabs. In 70 years, Abdul Malik, the Khalifa of Arabs, converted the whole Iran into Muslim. And they disowned their original culture, religion, Zoroastrianism, everything disowned and superimposed Islam on themselves. It is the ultimate disgrace. And so Egypt, everything is removed and Islamization. So is Afghanistan. So one by one. So the part of India, I mean, a lot of people give this dialogue, even the Muslims and even some of the Hindus. Or if really so many Muslims are converted, how come so many Hindus are still there? Well, friends, that's a big lie. Consider Bangladesh and Pakistan and Afghanistan together. They were all part of India and they're all gone. They're not Hindu anymore. So you have to consider all that. It's not that Hinduism remained, no conversions happened. It's not like that. Afghanistan, Pakistan, Bangladesh, everything was India. It is all gone now. It's all Muslim. So it's not that the identity continued. The identity continued in South India and Central India to some extent, and lesser extent in North India. Kashmir is again gone. Dominant Islamic culture. And if you take the Delhi area, I was surprised one day when somebody told me, a foreigner who came to Delhi as a tourist asked a tourist guide to take him onto a ancient temple in Delhi. Anyone here, can you take me to an ancient temple in Delhi? There is no ancient temple in Delhi. Then does it mean that there was no temple at all? All temples are demolished. And even the existing Red Fort and all were pre-Islamic. They were there much earlier, Prithviraj Chauhan and so on. And even the Lodi, my office was near Lodi colony, the Lodi gardens and Lodi tomb. You go and ask anybody there outside, they'll tell that was a palace. It was converted into a tomb. Taj Mahal was also a palace and also a temple. It was converted into a tomb. And even the Humayun tomb, everything was converted. So this deformation and to the extent of not being able to recover has happened to all the countries in the world, including India. Therefore, we have Afghanistan, Pakistan, Bangladesh. So this process unfolded over several centuries, enacted by various foreign powers, not one: Arabs, Turks, Mongols, Afghans, then, of course, Britishers, French, Portuguese. They all assaulted India. Dutch also looted India and shipped everything to their countries. And India remained a robbed house. So, what was the richest country before the colonization? Even during the Mughal period, India was the richest in the world. Sonia Ka Chidiya, Mughal Emperor Shah Jahan. The Mughal Empire, of course, I have to mention, it's a hybrid. It is not pure Muslim. Akbar entered into a matrimonial alliance with the Rajputs of Jaipur, the Kachavahi dynasties, to the extent that the girl from the Rajput king will be married by the emperor, and the son born to that girl will alone become the next emperor. So Salim and later on one Jahangir and the Shah Jahan all were born to the Hindu queens, the Rajput queens of the Mughal emperors from Akbar onwards. And in that lineage, Dara Shikoh was to become the emperor, but Aurangzeb, who was the last from a different wife, killed him and captured the throne. And the Britishers, of course, went on a what is called a civilization mission. They portrayed indigenous society as barbaric, pagan, heathen, and uncivilized, a narrative designed to legitimize conquest and systematic plunder and colonization to the extent of squeezing out the entire economy to the extent of causing famines, deaths of millions. The Bengal famine was caused by the British Empire. So this historical... Mute your mics. This historical process can be understood through the three distinct but overlapping phases: brutal conquest, economic exploitation, and intellectual subjugation. Erasure by force and faith. Initial waves of colonization in India were characterized by violent military conquest and deliberate erasure of native cultures. Beginning with the Arab invasion of Sindh in 712 CE, a common pattern of destruction was established. The famous Shiva temple at Deval was razed and eventually converted into a mosque, a fate shared by more than 40,000 temples in the whole country. The conquest of cities like Mulastan, that is the original word, was accompanied by massacres and the desecration of revered ancient temples. This physical destruction was a calculated strategy to demoralize and popularize and uproot the sacred geography that had bound the civilization together for millennia. You can see the latest example in Kashmir. That is depopulation. I mean, the population of Hindus will be eliminated, removed. And either you convert, or you get killed, or you run away. They tell you that openly. They did that in 1990. And a similar brutal force of cultural religious erasure was carried out by Portuguese in Goa in the 16th century beginning. In the famous Goa Inquisition, it was established to enforce religious orthodoxy of Christianity, Catholicism, but to systematically dismantle Hindu society, destroy it. A royal decree in 1560 CE outlawed, banned Hindu temples and Hindu rituals. In the years that followed, hundreds of temples were destroyed. In Goa, we have two districts. One district is completely churches, and another district is having temples. North Goa and South Goa. New laws banned public Hindu ceremonies, criminalized possession of religious images, incentivized citizens to report on their neighbors as spies, leading to arrest, property seizure, public executions of heretics. Either they get converted forcibly or they have to run away from that place. That's how people ran away from Goa to Mangalore and Karnataka and so on. Konkani speaking. So those who got converted and dared enough to go back to their original faith were killed. So apostasy is punished by murder in all these religions. That's why a lot of ex-Muslims don't show their face. So economic colonization, this is about the religious colonization. I'll just take a small break. I'll come back.
Sir, voice is not coming, sir. Your phone is mute.
No, he said he'll take a small break.
Sir, Prabhu sir, your voice is not audible, sir.
Yes, yes, he's on break, small break, madam.
Okay. Venugopal sir, check once sir's microphone.
Yes, he's just taking a small break. He
Okay,
announced before going.
okay.
Yeah, sorry, I took a break. I'm back. So the economic colonization, the architecture of economic ruin, while the earlier invasions focused on plunder and cultural dominance, the British perfected the art of economic colonization. The British East India Company, established in 1600 CE, was a trading entity gradually transformed into a formidable political and military power. For business, they came. Sir Thomas Roe met Shah Jahan in 17th century AD and just to say we want to do business and got permission. And gradually it became a military enterprise by fraud, by cheating. The Battle of Plassey in 1757 gave the company control over the rich province of Bengal, marking the beginning of a systematic drain of wealth from the subcontinent. For the next 190 years, it is estimated that trillions of dollars were siphoned from India to Britain. So India, which was the richest country, became the poorest country, and England, which was poorest, became the richest. This economic exploitation was devastating. The British dismantled India's prosperous indigenous industries, particularly the world-renowned textile trade, turning the nation into a mere supplier of raw materials. The fingers of the handloom weavers were cut. They were able to make one full saree which can fit into a matchbox, Dhaka muslin. And the Indian industry, which was so-called handicrafts, now was destroyed, and the spinning mills opened in Britain. They made the cloth, and Indians had to buy that Manchester cloth by compulsion. Cotton was taken from India, and cloth was imported into India. So the economic exploitation is of three levels: the direct looting, direct transfer of wealth. Like Robert Clive took a large number of bags full of gold and diamond jewelry to England. Indirect looting through taxations, huge taxation. Third is this kind of exploitation by taking raw material and forcing Indians to buy the finished goods. So this deindustrialization resulted in impoverization of millions of artisans and craftsmen who started committing suicides. Even today, the handloom weavers commit suicides. Once, about 10 years back, we went to do a survey of various handloom weavers' villages, Pochampalli surrounding. Pochampalli was all right, but there were many other villages around it. So when we went to each village, first they said so many people have committed suicide. How will they commit suicide? In the cold drink, they will add the dye, color, and they will commit suicide. We were terrified because we were also drinking cold drink in hot sun they gave us. Puttaga, there had so many other villages, and one to Chautupal and so on, one after the other. So every village you go, they say, no, this fellow commits suicide, that fellow commits suicide, and his son is here, his grandson is here. One fellow studied MBA. So it was terrible. And that started with the British, turning the tables against the Indian artisans and craftsmen. So the policies prioritizing revenue collection over public welfare. You have to collect, the name collector stands for a person who collects money and sends to England. Now, he's not interested in welfare measures. The policies prioritizing revenue collection over public welfare were a direct cause of catastrophic famines, most notably the Great Bengal Famine of 1770. I think that is called Dhata famine. That is the name of the year. They were eating mud, which claimed up to 10 million lives. Dhata Karu in Telugu, even today, it's a proverbial. By the time the British left, the once prosperous land, the richest country in the world, became shattered to shambles and became one of the poorest countries in the world. Subjugation of Indian intellectual colonization. This is one economic aspect, but the British colonization also resulted in intellectual colonization, which we are still suffering from. The most insidious and long-lasting form of colonization is intellectual colonization. The British sought to colonize the minds of the Indian people to ensure their perpetual submission to the colonial power. The cornerstone of this strategy was Thomas Macaulay's English Education Act of 1835. In his new famous Minute of Indian Education, he wrote the minutes. Macaulay dismissed all Indian knowledge and Indian knowledge systems and literature and shastras as almost nothing, and compared to the vast European knowledge, superior. That kind of a picture he started giving. The stated goal was to create a new class of Indians who would be Indian in blood and color, but English in taste, in opinion, in moral and intellect. This Anglicized elite was intended to act as a buffer between the colonial rulers and the masses, clerks, and the topmost are the ICS officers, helping to administer the empire. The policy led to the neglect and eventual decay of India's widespread indigenous education. That is what the beautiful tree book of Dharmapal portrays. A most beautiful tree of education of 4.5 lakh institutions in the country was mercilessly, ruthlessly demolished, and English schools were introduced. As Mahatma Gandhi later lamented, the British scratched the soil and began to look at the root and left the root exposed, and the tree perished. By deliberately suppressing India's rich intellectual heritage and imposing a foreign worldview, the British inflicted a deep psychological, ideological, identity wound, the effects of which continue to be debated and addressed till this day, till today. This is self-negation. You start saying that, oh, India is nothing, it's very backward, Indians are very backward, they know nothing, only English men, Britishers, they know everything, and English is the language of science, Sanskrit is the language of literature and religion. This kind of narrative was created deliberately. Everything is narrative building. Even today, it is being built by various quarters. Communists have their narrative, Muslim scholars and Islamists have their narrative, Christians have their narrative. And this was being observed and attempted to be resisted by people like Vivekananda onwards. While India faced devastating waves of colonization, its innate resilience spurred simultaneous countercurrents of resistance, revival, and reclamation. So the process of colonization began as early as 712 CE with the Arab invasion of Sindh. Of course, after the Arab invasion of Sindh in 712, there was a large gap of no invasions because of some people like Bappa Rawal who were very strong Rajput resistance to the Arab invasions. However, almost concurrently, we have revivalism. Of course, normal date of Shankaracharya in the books is 8th century AD. But that is not the Adi Shankaracharya. It is the later Shankaracharya. Adi Shankaracharya is 500 BC. I mentioned this point to the author of this chapter. He has acknowledged it, but he has not corrected it. Later on, as invaders continue to destroy the sacred sites, Muhammad of Ghazni, Muhammad of Gori, 1000 AD, 1200, they kept on attacking Somnath and other temples and destroying. Later, as invaders continued to destroy the sacred sites, the spirit of perseverance was matched by legendary determination to rebuild. 17 times Somnath temple was devastated and rebuilt. The Maratha queen Ahalyabai Holkar of Indore, she rebuilt the Varanasi temple and so many other temples. This is very famous, Ahalyabai Holkar, a lady of that time doing such heroic tasks. So in 19th century, the British attempted a deep intellectual colonization through policies like Macaulay's 1835 Education Act, which it has declared that all education, anything other than the British education, is illegal, immoral, and de-recognized. We cannot be taken into consideration. So Vedas, Sanskrit, Arabic, Persian, everything was de-recognized. So my great-grandfather told his sons to study English as a result of it. Same thing happened with all families. But the resistance also came. Ramakrishna Paramahamsa, born in 1836, just a year after the British Education Act, provided a guiding light for spiritual and cultural renaissance. His life and teachings powerfully articulated and spread across the globe by his great disciple Swami Vivekananda, who is my first guru, is the guru of all Indians, reawakened a sense of pride and confidence in India's spiritual heritage in Chicago. And he was the only one who told that all religions lead to the same spiritual supreme being. But every religion was saying mine is only correct, all others are wrong. But he admitted all are leading to the same thing. The renewed spiritual vigor fueled the freedom struggle and culminated in the independence in 1946. Post-independence, the effort to decolonize has continued with the revival of traditional knowledge systems. First and foremost is yoga. It has spread globally, and we are covering yoga in a different course, practical aspects. And Ayurveda became very famous, successful globally, demonstrating that for every attempt of colonization, there has been a retaliatory effect of decolonization. This course also is aimed at decolonization of the mindset and thinking process. So reclaiming Indian knowledge systems in our times. How to integrate with the contemporary knowledge systems? The word Indian knowledge system was given by Professor Kapil Kapoor, who is the Bhishma Pitamaha of modern Indian knowledge systems. I met him in Delhi. So after meeting him, I started feeling that I don't know anything. So I told him that. So when I told him after talking to you for last 2 hours, I realized that I don't know anything. Then he asked me, "Are you sure of that?" So a lot of people told me when they heard me in my lectures, they also felt that they don't know anything. So, but I never had the opportunity to ask them, "Are you sure about it?" So Kapil Kapoor gave this definition: Indian knowledge systems, IKS, though it means original knowledge system. So, one dimension is reviving the India's scientific past, and this was initiated by Swami Dayananda Saraswati of Arya Samaj in 19th century itself. He wrote a book called Rigveda Adibhasha Anukramanika, where he showed topic by topic, mathematics, physics, chemistry, aviation, aeronautics, everything, the mantras from Rigveda and other Vedas belonging to those topics. And Sri Aurobindo is on record to say that his statements are not exaggerations, but they're understatements. And later on, Radha Kumud Mukherjee and R.C. Mazumdar played a key role in documenting India's rich intellectual and cultural contributions. Mukherjee emphasized the educational and scientific achievements of ancient India in texts like Ancient Indian Education, while Mazumdar, multi-volume History of India, explored India's advancements in various knowledge systems and challenged the colonial narratives. Kapil Kapoor's Encyclopedia of Hinduism is very famous. Together, these scholars help prove that India's achievements in science were not only remarkable, but also part of a continuous tradition that deserved global recognition. Only now there is some recognition of India's contribution to the world of science. Einstein is on record that we owe to the Indians the decimal number system, without which no advancement in science and technology would have been possible. Dharmapal studied British colonial records and found that India had a very advanced education system even before colonial times. His books, such as the Indian Science and Technology in the 18th Century, published in 1971, The Beautiful Tree in 1983, showed how Indians were skilled in astronomy, mathematics, metallurgy, and medicine. Later scholars like M.D. Srinivas and J.K. Bajaj built on his work and focused on preserving ancient science manuscripts. There are 9,000 texts on astronomy and mathematics. Next week you will be understanding astronomy, Jyotisha. These researchers highlighted the importance of digitizing and analyzing these sources. So even the ecology, environmental science. I wrote a book, The Physics of VSS. You can see that, I'll post it. And I also wrote a report on the materials and machines reproduced from the ancient Vimana Shastra text, on which I have a lecture later. And I also have a lecture on the physics of VSS. So I have my own role in 3 to 4 different areas of contribution in the Indian knowledge system. One is yoga. I've taught yoga to over 1 lakh people along with my colleagues of the Vishwa Yoga Vidyapit globally. I've written 2 books in yoga. We are operating yoga teachers training programs, 3 months, 6 months, 1 year. Then Yoga Plus Plus is Sanatana Dharma course, which we have been delivering jointly with the Veda Samskruti Samiti of Prabhakar Rao Garu and Babu Garu, and along with Visalakshi Madam. Very successful hit. More than 12 courses we have delivered. And we are going to continue. Now we are diversifying into Hindi, Telugu, already we have, and now IKS is another our diversification. So jointly between the Veda Samskruti Samiti along with my own Vishwa Yoga Vidya Page, we are delivering Yoga plus 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 as Sanatana Dharma. And of course, the physics of VSS I wrote. I also did research on object knowledge model based on the Panini's Ashtarjai for representing knowledge and big data models. I got a doctorate in that same area, knowledge as a cloud service architecture based on Sanskrit object knowledge model. So revival through the growth of yoga in a big way. The big names like BK Iyengar, who teaches only asanas. Krishnamacharya Institute, who is the guru of Iyengar as well as Bhattavijois, as well as all others. So they're also experts in asanas only, but yoga has at least 5 different major areas. Asanas is one of them. Sukshmayama is from our Dhiren Brahmachari lineage. I wrote a book on that. We teach in our courses. It's all done in standing. Institutions like Iyengar and Krishnamacharya don't know such. Asanas, of course, are very famous throughout the globe. Then we have, of course, pranayama, which some people teach, but not much. Then we have the kriyas also. That is the internal cleaning of the nose, stomach, intestines, which these people don't teach. Those who teach only asanas, they don't teach kriyas because they don't know. Ramdev teaches in his ashram in Rishikesh. We teach online also. Recently also we have conducted a program on all this. So we can guarantee health. And of course, meditation techniques, Om meditation, Soham meditation, leading towards enlightenment. That's why people introduce me saying that I'll get you moksha. Yes, you can get moksha through yoga, higher yoga. So a lot of research was done on Hesh Yogi's techniques of transcendental meditation, and also in there is one Ramananda Yogi who could stop his heart, and it was measured in AIMS. And Yas Vyasa in Bangalore is also famous. But we have our own lineage of my own teachers of Dikshituluji coming from Dhiren Brahmachari and Kartikeya Maharshi on one side for the Sukshmayama. On the other side, I have a lineage from Bihar School of Yoga also. Swami Satyananda Saraswati is the guru of Dikshituluji. And third side, I have the Bade Dhuniwala Samsthan in Khandwa. Higher Yoga, Samadhi, Siddhas, they are Siddha Purushas. They are from the Omkareshwar area. They are the same classmates of Shankaracharya in the same institute where Govinda Bhagavat was teaching. So I have the lineage of learning higher yoga from them, pranayama towards samadhi. Today there is a ministry, Ayush ministry, Ayurveda, Yoga, Unani, Siddha and Homeopathy. We will conduct a yoga program after finishing this course for 2 weeks. Practical yoga. Yoga is practical. And Ayurveda, the revival took place through Kerala-based families of lineages. Arya Vaijyashala, Kottakkal, I went there. Dabur in North India, Vicco, each of which helped transform traditional healing into a mainstream wellness movement. 1,000 crore enterprise. Now, Kottakkal Arya Vaijyashala. Dabur evolved from a small Ayurvedic pharmacy to 12,000 crore revenue with R&D and all that. And CSIR itself started developing traditional knowledge digital library And we have developed one database called General Information Service Terminal of NIC in NIC National Informatics Center, 1990 itself, covering around 5,000 different scientific subjects within traditional knowledge systems. So now today in IIT Hyderabad, there is a Heritage Science and Technology Department. Mohan Raghavan heads it. It offers MTech and PhD programs, interdisciplinary. And there is an IKS and Heritage Association, IKSHA, IKSHA. This is a body group of professionals interested in IKS. And I am also associated with them. How much time we have?
Sir, it is 45, sir. 7:45.
Okay.
Now,
So in the
time to
contemporary knowledge systems today, in the today's education system, we have the university education system. How to integrate Indian knowledge is a very difficult and challenging task. Because if you take any subject, suppose you take medicine, we have the MBBS program, MD program, and we also have the Ayurveda BAMS program. They tried a lot of things to integrate both, but it never worked till today. They wanted to say that Ayurvedic people are equivalent to allopathy people, that they didn't agree. They wanted to join the courses, they didn't agree. Because the Allopathy Medical Council, they don't like Ayurveda. They go on attacking and criticizing. They put cases on Ramdev and put him in jail also. Medical Council of India. Of course, yoga doesn't have that problem. Yoga has no competition from Western sources. Yoga is yoga. But Westerners are now claiming they themselves are experts in yoga. But they accept finally it is the Indian yogis, gurus. And now if you take engineering, there's absolutely no integration. Modern engineering is modern engineering. Ancient engineering is Vastu, Shilpa Shastra, it remains there where it is. In Tamil, the Sthapatya Veda, the temple construction, or the is related to Atharva Veda, and it is Tantra, Agama, it's all in Sanskrit and Tamil. And if you take, say, economics, modern economics, and only Kautilya Arthashastra is there, they try to study MA, they have put political science. And architecture, Vastu is there. There is no integration. They remain independent. So it's a very difficult task to integrate, but pursuing is possible. So comparing Indian knowledge systems and contemporary knowledge systems shows that they are both built in different ways of understanding, organizing, and applying knowledge. Compared to CKS, IKS follows a more interdisciplinary and holistic model because in the ancient times, they integrated everything. The basic core knowledge base in Indian knowledge system is common. The Panchabhutas and the Panchendriyas and all that, Sankhya framework is common to Ayurveda, to Yoga, to Silpa Shastra, to everyone. That is the Vedic framework. But that's not like that in modern science. Every time the modern physics is different from the classical physics. The framework itself is different. Relativity, quantum theory. There is no integration. Relativistic quantum thermodynamics is there, but there is no full integration. The unified field theory, Einstein tried to integrate all the weak forces and strong forces into one field, quantum field, universal field. But that was called Atma in Sanskrit. And Pindande Tad Brahmande, the cosmos, the universal man, Vishwarupa, the Purusha Sukta. These kind of approaches are there only in Indian knowledge. And moksha, when you realize you are Brahman, you are self, Paramatma, then you are liberated. Recently, one astrologer told me, along with my wife, that when my wife was asking him about me, he told my wife that he is going to get moksha. My wife was totally shocked. She started congratulating as if it is some kind of a ticket or lottery. And Ayurveda is independent on its own. It has Charaka Samhita, its own framework, scientific method. And independent division is not encouraged in IKS as it is done in the CKS. So I'll stop here. Tomorrow we'll start from page 20 and close tomorrow this chapter, which is going up to 34. So we will cover the Vidyasthanas, 14 Vidyasthanas, Kalas, Purusharthas, Ashramas in detail, or rather overview tomorrow. Thank you. Let us close now and ask any questions.
Dhanyawada Mahoday. Thank you very much for the great explanation about our Indian original knowledge. Thank you, sir. Dear friends, if you are having any doubts, raise your hands and ask the sir.
On anything whatsoever you can ask. What I talked today or last time or even otherwise relating to this subject. Feel free to ask anything and everything. So, Bharatiya Jnana Parampara, Hindi, Telugu, or any Indian language, Bharatiya Jnana Parampara.
Yes, online లో ఉందండి ఎక్కడ డౌన్లోడ్ చేసుకోవాలి
అంటే ఇప్పుడు భారతీయ జ్ఞాన పరంపర అనేది సనాతన ధర్మం అనేది రెండు కూడా దాదాపు ఒకటే. మీకు అర్థమవుతుందా? ఆర్ యు ఏబుల్ టు అండర్స్టాండ్? బికాస్ ది కంటెంట్స్ ఆర్ సేమ్. Vedas, Vedangas, Upanishads, Darshanas, Yoga, Ayurveda, Sankhya. Same thing are there in Sanatana Dharma as well as Indian knowledge systems. But in Indian knowledge systems, it is a purely academic and scientific approach and not a religious approach. Sanatana Dharma refers to Hinduism in a religious sense, cultural sense. Here it is academic, intellectual sense. But otherwise both are same. Anybody else say anything? And I also did some interesting work on what is called Dharma Yoga as a common framework for all religions and science. So we have many, we have 1,000 religions. And we have science and atheism and agnosticism and skepticism and socialism and communism. So how do you have something common for all? That commonness I located by our research for 6 years as Dharma Yoga. Dharma, that is ethics, and yoga, whether it is Hatha Yoga, whether it is Raj Yoga, whether it is Bhakti Yoga or Jnana Yoga, whatever it is common. Because Bhakti Yoga is for theistic religions. Islam, Christianity also, and Judaism also are having Bhakti Yoga in them. Dharma, of course, they all have, but in a limited scale. And recently, one Mushtaq Ahmed, has proven with many books he wrote that the Hindu scriptures are the original source of Quran and Bible also. The Quran and Bible are putting in a very, very limited scale, whereas Hindu scriptures are going very deep and very vast knowledge of Dharma, Yoga, Moksha, Jnana, and Supreme Being. So here it is like a very brief summary without understanding adequately. But the subject is same. It is like some people write guidebooks to textbooks. Textbooks are very deep and expert. The guidebooks are very easy. It's like that. So this man has accepted our Dharma Yoga and he has contributed to our Dharma Yoga framework. Because even the communist, atheists, agnostics, skeptics, they will accept ethics and they will accept yoga as a health technique. So Dharma Yoga is a common framework for all. Those who accept God or those who don't accept. Those who are Indian, those are non-Indian. Doesn't matter. Because historically also, it's a fact that, the Vedas are the oldest, then the Upanishads, then the Bhagavad Gita. Till then, there is no other religion in the world. So after that, Buddhism, Jainism came in India. And outside India, Judaism, before Judaism is Zoroastrianism, which is a mirror image of Rig Veda, from which there was an extension of monotheism. And by force, it was imposed on Jews in Israel. That is the Jewish monotheism, which became the Christian monotheism later. Yahweh became Yehovah and added with Jesus as Son of God. And Islam, Jesus is subtracted, and Jews also have no Jesus. They don't accept Jesus. But the Jews and Muslims never get along. They want to kill each other, as you know very well, in Gaza and all that. So they're more interested in politics rather than spirituality. Whereas our scriptures and our Sanatana Dharma is spiritually oriented, not politics oriented. Any other question or comments on this, any topic?
సార్ మన గోత్రాలు శాఖలు ఇవన్నీ
వాయిస్ ప్లీజ్ వాయిస్ వినపడలేదు, దగ్గరికి వచ్చి మాట్లాడు.
మన గోత్రాలు శాఖలు మొదలు ఇవన్నీ కూడా తెలుసుకోవాలంటే ఇంకా డీటెయిల్ గా ఏదైనా ఎక్స్ప్లెయిన్ చేస్తారా?
There are some books. Gotra refers to both the genetic lineage as well as the affiliation. Like Kashyapa Gotra, there are Brahmins, there are Kshatriyas, and there are even Sudras. It's same Kashyapa Gotra. What does it mean? That means there is a affiliation group. It's like saying IIT Bombay people, like that. So people belong to same Gotra cannot marry because they are like brother and sister. So that is the genetic diversity being maintained. Genetic pool is maintained and diversity is maintained through marriage. There are many books. I think in some of our previous courses we have discussed extensively about it. But this course we will not cover, but other courses we will cover. That is partly dealt in, I think, some other chapter here in this book. What is Gotra? What is genetics? A lot of videos are also there in YouTube. Nowadays, all knowledge is available on YouTube. And the WhatsApp University is the biggest university. Next question. I think we'll close now.
Yes, sir. Mahoday, Sailata Mahoday. Sir, with your permission, we will go to session ending prarthana.
Yeah, go ahead.
Thank you, sir. Sailata Mahoday.
स्वस्ति प्रजाभ्यः परिपालयन्ताम् न्यायेन मार्गेण महीमहीषाः गोब्राह्मणेभ्यः शुभमस्तु नित्यम् लोकाः समस्ताः सुखिनो भवन्तु। ॐ शान्ति शान्ति शान्तिः। काले वर्षतु पर्जन्यः पृथिवी सस्यशालिनी देशोऽयं क्षोभरहितो ब्राह्मणाः सन्तु निर्भयाः अपुत्राः पुत्रिणः सन्तु पुत्रिणः सन्तु पौत्रिणः अधनाः सधनाः सन्तु जीवन्तु शरदां शतम्। सत्यं वद धर्मं चर स्वाध्यायान्मा प्रमदः सर्वे भवन्तु सुखिनः सर्वे सन्तु निरामयाः सर्वे भद्राणि पश्यन्तु मा कश्चित् दुःखभाग् भवेत्। ॐ शान्तिः शान्तिः शान्तिः। ॐ पूर्णमदः पूर्णमिदं पूर्णात् पूर्णमुदच्यते पूर्णस्य पूर्णमादाय पूर्णमेवावशिष्यते। ॐ शान्तिः शान्तिः शान्तिः। सर्वे जनाः सुखिनो भवन्तु। स्वस्ति।
सर्वे जनाः सुखिनो भवन्तु. धन्यवादः महोदय. Now, Venkatnarayan sir, I am requesting you to recite our national anthem, Janaganamana.
जनगणमन अधिनायक जय हे भारत भाग्य विधाता पंजाब सिंधु गुजरात मराठा द्राविड उत्कल वंगा विंध्य हिमाचल यमुना गंगा उच्चल जलधि तरंगा तव शुभ नामे जागे तव शुभ आशीष मांगे गाहे तव जय गाथा जनगण मंगलदायक जय हे भारत भाग्य विधाता जय हे जय हे जय हे जय 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 हे. जय हिंद.
Dhanyawad Mahodaya. I am ending the session. Is there any important advices to the students, sir? A. Babu, sir.
Thank you.
Sir, is there any advices
You
to the students?
can have some interaction with the students.
Okay, sir.
Whatever anybody wants to say anything regarding this course. I hope you are all putting your PIN numbers. Attendance is compulsory. I find still only 45-46 people are joining. Attendance is compulsory. Okay, anybody else to want to say anything? If not, you can close.
Okay, sir.
మేడం అటెండెన్స్ వెయ్యాలంటే ఎట్లా వెయ్యాలి?
అటెండెన్స్ మీ మీ నేమ్ దగ్గర మీరు ప్రెస్ చేస్తే మీకు కొన్ని కాలమ్స్ వస్తాయి. అందులో రీనేమ్ అని వస్తుంది. రీనేమ్ అన్న దగ్గర మీ నంబర్ నోట్ చేయండి 5083 అండ్ దెన్ స్పేస్ ఇచ్చినాక మీ నేమ్ ఎంటర్ చేయండి.
అది చేశాను మేడం. అంటే నేను అటెండ్ అయిన నోట్ చేసుకుంటానా అని అడుగుతున్నాను. నేను చేసి పెట్టాను 5083
అదే
నెంబర్.
ఒకళ్ళిద్దరికి నేను పెట్టాను ఇందాక, అలాగనే పెట్టండి.
ఓకే మేడం. అంటే మేము క్లాస్ అటెండ్ అయినట్టే ఏమైనా ఫిక్స్ చేసుకుంటానా అని అడుగుతున్నాను. అవసరం
పార్టిసిపెంట్స్ లిస్ట్ లో చూడొచ్చు మేడం. పార్టిసిపెంట్స్ లిస్ట్ వస్తుంది, అందులో మీరు చెక్ చేస్తే మీ నేమ్ కనపడుతుంది.
ఓకే ఓకే. అంటే నా పర్సనల్ గా నోట్ చేయకుండా
నోట్ చేయండి.
లీలా గారు 1 minute.
సార్ చెప్పండి.
విజయలక్ష్మి గారు, you just put your number as you have already done it, na? మీరు పెట్టారు కదా 5083 విజయలక్ష్మి వేప. లలిత గారు, she will see all the people who are in the participants list. ఓకే, ఆవిడ అటెండెన్స్ తీసుకుంటుంది. అటెండెన్స్ తీసుకుని రికార్డ్ చేసుకుంటుంది. మీరు చేయవలసిన పని ఏం లేదు. మీరు ఎంటర్ అయిన తర్వాత నెంబర్ వేయండి అంతే. ఒకవేళ నెంబర్ లేకపోతే 5083 డాక్టర్ విజయలక్ష్మి వేప అంతే. ఓకే, చెప్పండి కామేశ్వరరావు గారు.
సార్ కామేశ్వరరావు గారు ఇందాక ఏదో చెప్తా అన్నారు, బ్రోచర్ గురించి, మన గ్రూప్ లో పెట్టిన బ్రోచర్ గురించి. సార్ కంటిన్యూ సార్.
నమస్కారం అండి. ఇక్కడ సిలికాన్ ఆంధ్ర అని ఒక ఆర్గనైజేషన్
వినపట్టలేదు.
వినపట్లేదు. ఇప్పుడు వినిపిస్తోందమ్మా? ఇప్పుడు వినిపిస్తోందా?
వినిపిస్తోంది.
రైట్ సార్. సిలికాన్ ఆంధ్ర has been established around 25 years ago only as a cultural forum, but recently they have started a university under the name Arya University in San Francisco area, that is Bay Area. What I'm going to dwell is they have brought out a brochure a few days back, and they are conducting first Sanskrit annual international conference. First Sanskrit annual international conference on June 6th of 2026 at Arya University, Milpitas, California. They are inviting papers, research papers on various topics. Subheadings are: one is scientific knowledge in ancient texts. The second one is technology and digital innovation. Third area is natural sciences and wellness. Fourth area is Sanskrit, aesthetics and literature. The research papers can be submitted either in Sanskrit or in English. And important dates are: the abstract has to be submitted before February 25th in about 500 words. And if this is accepted, the acceptance will be communicated to individual persons by March 5th. And they have to submit full-fledged research paper by 21st of March. And there is a registration fees, nominal registration fees for registering for this submission of paper. I have already circulated this brochure to in our group. So if anybody is interested, they can lay their hands and submit a paper, which is very close to the system, the course what we are pursuing now. That's it.
Okay, thanks, Sandy. Kameswara garu. Now, anybody else wants to say anything? Want to ask any?
Hello, Kameswara garu.
చెప్పండి.
కామేశ్వర గారు వినపడుతుంది చెప్పేది?
వినపడుతుంది, మీరు చెప్పండి.
చెప్పండి సార్.
25th ఆల్రెడీ అయిపోయిందండి. February 25th ఆల్రెడీ అయిపోయింది. 3 days అనుకోండి, hardly any time left. అదే just 3 days more. Some people may
that is for submission of abstract.
Yeah. నేను by the way about 2012 or so I came there along with Kuchibetla Anand, along with a delegation from India. So the delegation comprised of professors and heads of the various organizations. I was one of them. So we stayed there in the Bay Area in various houses, and we had conference and lectures and meetings. Anand Kuchibetla was organizing all that. Same Silicon Andhra. So I gave some lectures. I got felicitated. Then they were doing a lot of festivals like dances, musics, and all those things. About 10-15 years back. So now they have launched a university. Is it a university with campus or no campus?
They are going to develop a campus. They have acquired recently about 60 acres. And basically, they are focusing on medical education, and also ancillary subjects will be covered in the university.
What do you mean medical education? Is it modern medical education or ancient?
No, sir, modern.
Okay. Kuchibetla Anand was well known to us at that time. Of course, now he might have forgotten. Is he running the whole show now? Yeah.
He is the founder, CEO for Silicon Andhra as well as Arya University.
Correct. Right. I'm very happy that all these developments are taking place.
Right now he's in Hyderabad, sir. Right now he's in Hyderabad.
Wonderful. So I'm very happy that all these developments are taking place. And of course, long back, I'm telling about 12-15 years back, Right. If you are in touch with them, you can tell them about at that time what we came and as a delegation. There were people from Central University and IIIT and AP Secretariat. We all were about 12 people delegation to this event of Silicon Andhra and we all stayed for
Earlier,
10 days or something. I stayed in one Vedula family and somebody stayed in somebody else's family house, and they came to the airport and received us. Great reception they gave in San Francisco. So I just
Silicon Andhra is basically a culture-based organization, whereas Arya is a typical academic institutions.
I see.
Arya University.
Yeah, if you can tell him all this, and we'll talk in private all this matters further. Okay, bye.
Right.
Okay. Anybody else wants to say anything connected with this course? Otherwise, please close.
Okay, sir.
Lilaji.
Okay, sir.
Okay.
I'm stopping recording and then I will stop.